Goodwill thrift shop workers, what are some of the strangest things you've found in the donations? I was so naive when I started working at a thrift shop, thinking everyone was playing jokes on me. That was until I opened a box with a gimp suit in it, along with a few toys. But over the 5 years I worked there I saw it all. Adult toys, CM stained lingerie, ashes, weapons, got a box of someone's personal files. It was all her records for plastic surgery with her credit card details and SIN number. Everything. The most memorable moment was when a very elderly worker priced a huge bong as a vase and put it out on the sales floor. I heard some kid was really happy to buy it for $3, the cashier told everyone after he sold it. Yay, people just don't care sometimes. We have seen a moving truck come with grandma's house basically packed up in it and dropped off to us besides the jewelry box. Family photos, everything. We found a 9K ring in the pocket of a jacket from that one and more jewelry stashed in clothing pocket. Shows the family never even looked. I managed one for 3 years. Paddle boat, aquarium with water and fish in it, 100s of pounds of bird seed, 1000s of packets of assorted flower and vegetable seeds, 365 copies of Return from Witch Mountain. I guess they read one copy of that book each day. Unopened Christmas gifts, adult toys and bondage gear. Once found the Falcon Medallion, the highest honor bestowed upon Icelandic people by the president. Some kind soul once donated pants full of crap and skid marks. They stunk for miles. Illegal weapons are sometimes donated as well. I once discovered a pair of LC1 chairs designed by Le Corbusier valued at about $4 each. Serial number dated them 3 years old. Dentures if not uncommon. Refrigerators and freezers that will stink up the entire shop if opened for a second or two. Unlocked computers and hard drives with lots of private photos and videos. The NSW kind. Some people apparently like to donate their loved ones' ashes. We've had pet cages donated with the dead pet still inside. Once a parrot and once a hamster. A box of mealworms, which I took home to feed my baddie. What troubles me the most is when we would get like a box of memories from a kid. You know, pictures of the child, school projects from arts and crafts classes, locks of hair and favorite stuffed toy, also featured in many of the photos. It's like some parents wanted to forget all about their kid, and I've seen at least 3 such donations in my 8 years working in Goodwill. One of my co-workers was super clumsy and lucky, and she almost always had a cast on a limb or two, so it was decided to put her in the pillow department. She had only been there for about a week when she nipped herself on a used syringe some kind-hearted junkie had decided to donate along with her pillows. That landed her 1 year of regular blood tests. A somewhat relevant, but long-winded, story that happened to me recently. I was on site filtering out what stuff people were putting in the donation container. Bloody crappy urinated mattresses and whatnot. A woman arrived with a bunch of stuff. Among the things she donated was a framed portrait of a very unpopular local politician. Think stuff like offshore tax evasion accounts, hateful speech, and never present during important things in Congress. She saw me holding it puzzled and said, "Oh, my friends gave this picture to me because I was always arguing about him and his politics." And of course I replied, "What can one do but argue about this guy? It's a miracle this monkey is still in Congress after all of his scandals." The woman said nothing. Oops, I figured she must have been one of his supporters I had heard about, but never met before. But no, that was his wife. Why the heck did she donate a portrait of her husband to Goodwill? And I just called her husband a monkey to her face. Didn't get in trouble for it though. At least not yet. I was a manager at a local non-profit that gives away donated items for free. It's basically a Goodwill, but you can just take what you want. Each shopper has a limit of clothes, toys, books, etc. they can take pet person in the household per month. We had tons and tons of donations, and my main job was keeping the donations organized and making sure the volunteers and donators were happy. I had a woman come and super pee off and just started unloading the back of her minivan. Some volunteers grabbed me because they were afraid of her. There were tools, a wedding dress, radios, instruments, tons of valuable items. She was yelling incoherently, and I was just trying to get the stuff from her before she threw it on the parking lot ground and broke the stuff. She started calming down, and I was able to ask her if she wanted a tax form for all this stuff. Normally, People do, but it's just for some clothes. This lady was easily donating $1,000, if not more, dollars worth of items. She told me that her husband told her wanted a divorce after so many years of marriage and she was pissed, so she was donating all his stuff. I then was pissed off because I couldn't donate this guy's stuff without his permission. So now I had to find a spot to store all this stuff and hope he would come here to find it. He ended up coming a few hours later and we had most of his stuff. Volunteers put out some of things, some tool belts, music books, and smaller tools. I didn't ask him any questions, but gave him stuff back. He was much more calm than his wife, so I think I know why he wanted the divorce. She never did come back for that wedding dress, but the dress made another woman's day, so it was all worth it. Also, we couldn't accept VCR tapes because there was more than one incident where someone had taped over The Lion King or The Little Mermaid with homemade pee. Always great to get into work and have a shopper screaming at you for giving them a crappy pee video. A bit late to the party. I posted this before, so I'll just copy and paste it. I worked at Goodwill for a short time. It wasn't exactly a cool thing we couldn't sell, but nevertheless it was a funny story. One of my fellow employees was telling me about how someone donated a piece of wood, or I should say left a piece of wood. As a joke, she put a price tag on it for $10,000 and said it was a piece from Noah's Ark. Strangely enough, someone seriously believed it and wanted to buy it. Needless to say, management wasn't happy and quickly removed it and threw it away. Not a worker, but my mother is. Someone keeps donating letters addressing issues with the town, like, there is a pothole on so and so street. Then later, thank you, the pothole is fixed. I find it amusing. They spend time looking at what is wrong and writing it down. It's nice that they write a letter thanking the town for being so responsive. Mum worked at a charity store. Wedding dresses were donated depressingly often. The strangest thing was some antique Victorian underwear in perfect condition. She ended up keeping that one after clearing it with her boss. Last week I was in Goodwill and I found a small booklet called P for Mothers. I opened the book expecting full-on smut, but it was a bunch of photos of attractive 20-30-year-old men taking care of a baby, saying things like, "Don't worry honey, I'll take care of the baby tonight. You go out with your friends to happy hour. You deserve the night off." Strangest thing I found was a lock of hair attached to a death certificate. We kept it for a while but no one ever claimed it. Saddest was a bunch of brand new baby clothes and brand new baby items accompanied by a how to cope after a stillbirth book. Actually made me and my co-worker upset. On the plus side, if they donated them, maybe they were recovering. I worked at Lake Austin Goodwill here in Austin, Texas. One day I was sorting donations and someone had donated a very nice, ornate wooden box with pretty inlay. I turned over the box to look for a maker's mark so I could price it appropriately and poof, ashes fell all over me. Lots of ashes. Yes, those kinds of ashes. I'd like to think it was just the forgotten remains of a once beloved pet, but it was way too large of a quantity of ashes to just be a dog. Someone had most likely, and hopefully unknowingly, donated grandma's cremated remains, which were now literally coating me like some sort of satanic deep frying batter. Needless to say, I requested to go home early. I proceeded to take many showers and scrubbed my body very hard, till my skin was red. It was, to say the least, very traumatic. I worked at a Goodwill in Kansas City for about 8 months. Worst working experience of my life. Saw several weird things come through the donations, but one does stick out in my mind. Was a paper plate that was turned into an art project by, presumably, a small child. It was laying face down, had a name on it, lots of glitter and tassels and such. I grabbed it to look at the front, and I see a very colorful, glittery swastika on the front of the plate. I've seen all types of dirty clothes, adult toys, rare collectibles, etc. But this one left me speechless. Worked at Value Village as a teenager. I can't think of anything really crazy. Sad stuff though. A woman who I guess had alcoholism and died. Photo albums, antidepressants, mail etc. Basically just garbage. Sometimes what to me seemed like loads of laundry, just obscenely dirty clothes, like someone just didn't want to do their laundry. That was a wild place to work. Often would argue with people who would dump little garbage at the donation center cause they were moving or whatever and they wanted to get rid of it. After log weekends was the worst. The whole parking lot would be covered in garbage. They've put up a gate now since I left. Worked at Goodwill for a total of 2 years. The craziest donation had to be the time right before I started. Someone dropped off a small suitcase with around Oz or more of stale weed in it. Cops were called etc. but no one was caught. My manager would always bring that story up. I have seen many adult toys, adult swings and way too much dirty underwear. Best part was going through the clothes and getting to keep any money you find in the pockets. Also many other drugs, pills etc. and weed pipes were found in hoodies that I lost count. Working at Goodwill was an experience. Nowadays that could be pretty risky, just blindly and quickly sticking your hands in the pockets of pants. You could end up sticking yourself with a needle. First let me say that I work at the warehouse and handle all of the computers and higher end electronics. That means I do not directly take donations. The dock workers take the donations and are then supposed to separate the trash out and divide the items by departments. The worst day I had opening a tote was the day I found a specimen jar 1/4 full of what appeared to be coagulated semen and some used paper towels. I had to dispose of all the items in the tote due to potential contamination and immediately called the manager of the store that shipped me the tote in question. I also frequently find bottles of chemicals, propane tanks, rusted blades of various types, tools like saws, knives, etc., and broken glass from various sources. I have found disturbing photographs, typically on camera SD cards, but also Polaroids, used underwear, adult toys, and various lingerie. I even once found a lace teddy that was torn up and covered in what appeared to be blood. You can usually expect 1 to 3 strange or funny items every week. What really irks me though are iDevices, iPhones, iPads, and the like. It is great that people want to donate said items, but around 90% of them are activation locked or not reset at all with iCloud account still active on it. That means that we can only recycle these items to our electronic recycling facility because it still has personal information still on them and we aren't allowed to bypass the FRP. We waste about $1,500 to $3,000 a week on iDevices. So if you are going to donate them, please sign out of your iCloud account and reset the device before doing so. Not a GW worker, but I buy from their online auction site. People find an old watch in grandpa's dresser drawer. No strap. It's not running. So they chuck it into the Goodwill box. Turns out to be a rare Rolex and sells for 5 figures. Same thing with old 35mm cameras. The names Leica and Rolleiflex mean nothing to them. But I've seen some old Leicas, early rangefinder Canons, etc. go for 4 figures. A weird one was a piece of Pyrex cookware. In case you didn't know, the good Pyrex is in all caps, while the new, mediocre stuff is lowercase. Anyway, this dish was part of a small, limited edition run that was never issued to the public. Folks went crazy over that thing, selling in the mid 4 figures. Yet, there is a surprising amount of good stuff that gets resold on the cheap or donated simply because someone didn't know what they had. I've picked up a decent assortment of quality jewelry, and I mean the real stuff. Pearls, sterling silver, and gemstones, because people don't know gemology. My sister's boyfriend worked in a small charity shop in Tottenham. They sold a vase for £8 that was unpolished and assumed to be copper. Turned out it was solid gold worth $500k. I manage a small non-profit thrift store and I found a live frog in a box of donations last summer. It was probably just stored in the garage for a while and the frog climbed in. Other than that, I find gross donations way more often than weird ones. One of my friend's mom buys unique items she finds at thrift stores, restores them, and either resells them online or keeps them. A couple years ago brought home a cool looking vase she was going to restore. It looked like it was made from some pretty expensive materials, and my friend was inspecting it when she pulled out a long, grey hair. Turns out the vase is actually an urn from the 1800s. My friend's mom refuses to get rid of it because it would be bad juju, and the Gertrude now lives on a shelf with other weird Goodwill finds. I had to do community service at Goodwill. They made me go through all the shoe donations and put matches together, decide if they were good enough to keep. While going through them I found a real dead bat in a boot. Not a worker, but I found a half-used candle for sale in a Scope charity shop. Black burnt wick and half dripped down. For 50p, the cheeky bastards. It's for when Ryan comes over. He'll question who else was over and why you lit a candle for them. I worked as a donation attendant at Goodwill for a while and we'd get all sorts of nasty things. Some of the highlights were crap-covered corn cobs, wet thong pumps, and, my favorite, water guns. The water guns were already filled and it was the middle of summer, so the workers started spraying each other. Only then did we realize they were filled with pee. Oh god. I've never worked at one of these places, but I have a cool story that a plumber told me. This guy bought a rug from a thrift store. He unrolled it in the store just enough to see the pattern and then brought it home. He propped it up in the corner and then kind of forgot about it. Then one day a few months later, he got in the mood for home improvement. He cleaned his house, rearranged his house, then went out to his garage and plopped the rug down. He grabbed the corners and pulled, like he was throwing a sheet over a bed. When he did, $10,000 fluttered through the air. I don't know why no one had unrolled this rug through its travels, but dang, that is some comeuppance. I work at a thrift store and something similar happened. Someone dumped some old nasty furniture outside our dock while we were closed. The next morning when my boss found it, he decided to smash it with a sledgehammer to fit it in our dumpster better. With every hit of the hammer, a crisp $100 bill would fly out. $800 in total. I don't work at a thrift shop, but a friend of mine lost his snake. He couldn't find it for a few months and ended up donating his couch at around the same time. About 6 months after he donated the couch, the Goodwill found his snake in the couch. He saw the story on the news and got his snake back. Not a Goodwill, but the library I worked at had a donation bin where people could drop off books to give to the library. The strangest thing we ever got was a package of beef. It was warm and, thankfully, still in its packaging, but all of the staff in the library could not figure out what possessed someone to drop off room temperature meat in the donation bin. My grandpa used to volunteer at the thrift store in their senior community, and when someone would die, their family would donate some of their things. So he was telling me about this ugly vase and they priced it really low, and then another volunteer recognized the style and realized it was a Picasso. I'd like to know why Goodwill offers almost no computer equipment except keyboards, mice, printers, and CD drives. Where are the video cards? I assume you don't sell hard disks because they might contain personal information. I worked at an animal shelter thrift store and we had a weird policy of not reselling fur or non-cow leather, but regular cow leather was okay. Anyways, someone donated this massive gaudy carved elephant ivory jewelry set. Normally, the manager would give me anything that we couldn't sell under those rules, but this stuff was worth a ton of money. She ended up putting it for sale and received daily harassment from all the animal rights people that shopped there. I think it was priced at like $10k and it never sold, cause people with that kind of money typically aren't shopping at thrift stores. A drawing I had made years before and left around in school, in a book I never owned, while vacationing in a different country. Yes, I'm sure it was my drawing. I don't work at one, but I bought a Bible for my kid's room, and couple days after buying it, my son handed me a letter saying it fell out the Bible I just bought. It was a confession, apparently of an adult child who killed their mom. Didn't get into details, just asking for forgiveness for taking his mother's life, and asking to be absolved from the sin of murder. It was dated in 1988, no names on it. I found naked holiday photos on an old digital camera once. We all had a good laugh at them before deleting them. Remember kids, flash your cards before giving them away. I worked at Goodwill for a little over 8 years, from the back end to management in my later time. Nothing really crazy would come by. I mean, we've had grenades come through, large amounts of ammunition. I had a vial of cyanide come through before. I had an old man drop off a ridiculously large box completely full of corn cobs. I had a giant box of herb keef get donated. That's just off the top of my head. Most crazy stories usually happen in the store though, to be honest. At least at my location. I briefly worked at a thrift store that a lot of questionable people visited. One day I was cleaning out one of the dressing rooms. Someone had just left all of the clothes they tried on the floor and inside out. I started to turn a pair of jeans right side out when I felt something sticky wet soaked through the jeans. I looked down and what I saw was so utterly disgusting. Someone had shoved their freshly used tampon into the pocket of the jeans before leaving. It is not a surprise I quit a couple weeks later. Every few months, we'll get a load of unclaimed airport luggage. Amongst the crap we've found tons of fancy Japanese and Korean snack foods, entire cartons of cigarettes, unopened bottles of top shelf liquor, IDs and passports, phones, laptops, foreign currency. But the weirdest thing to us is when someone donates like 50 pairs of pants the exact same size, or tons of the same shirt but in different colors. Just why? Why so many? And what happened to this person? My personal favorite was an old but copy of Star Trek, the game show. I found a photo of myself on a Pee Wee League baseball plaque with my name and photo engraved to it at my local Goodwill. I have no idea how it got there. It freaked me out and I ran home. I forgot my purse to get money to buy it and by the time I got back it was gone. My sister works at Goodwill and I have heard numerous stories of people dropping off some inappropriate items. Lots of adult toys. But the best was a lady who brought in a box of her son's clothing. He was decapitated in an auto accident and didn't need them anymore. In the box they found a plastic freezer bag filled with soiled semen encrusted panties that he must have used to masturbate into. They also found a fleshlight that was very obviously used. My sister said one of the male workers took that device home with him. The bag of panties was tossed out. I worked part-time in a charity shop when I was a teenager. Some highlights: a gun, human teeth and an active bomb. The last one caused a bit of a stir. I found a, presumably, fully functional industrial infrared laser. This was from a Goodwill outlet. I contacted a company that manufactured it and the guy I spoke to pleaded with me to never try to turn it on and offered me $50 to get it off the streets. It was built like a tank on half-inch thick milled aluminum. I found out later that it's the type that is used in film processing machines and is invisible to the eye, while also having the charming ability to blind you in about a second. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.